Hey everyone, it's Jackie. I hope everybody's enjoying the summer and doing well, having a great week. It's Wednesday, so we're halfway through the week. Hopefully everyone is sticking with their fitness goals this week. I wanted to make a video today about a subject that is very near and dear to my heart, and that's the subject of metabolic damage or metabolic adaptation, probably more appropriately. Since I've posted my original blog post about my experience with figure competition and the damaging effects that it had to my metabolism and my recovery from that state, I've received so many emails and Facebook messages from women all over the country that either are experiencing similar symptoms now or are just thanking me for sharing my story. They thought they were the only one that was going through this. And so I figured this probably warranted a little bit more investigation, and I felt compelled to share my experiences just because I really don't want to see anybody else go through what I went through. And there's so many new girls in the sport with the addition of the bikini division. I've just seen the sport explode in the last 2 or 3 years, and there's so many new young girls coming into it, and I really just don't want to see anybody else go down this path. So in this video, I want to talk a little bit about what metabolic damage is, what this term is that everybody's throwing around, what causes it, and talk a little bit about how I ended up in that position. And in the next video, I'll talk about my recovery process, how I was able with the right help to overcome metabolic damage, and what you all can do to prevent the same thing from happening to you. So, what is metabolic damage? Metabolic damage, more specifically, could be called metabolic adaptation. And my definition is a athlete body or metabolism that is completely unresponsive to a change in diet or exercise protocol, followed by a rapid weight gain and rebound in the post-training period disproportionate to the calories that are being consumed. So it seems all too common now for a figure or bikini or fitness athlete to train X number of weeks for a competition. They are following these extreme training and diet protocols with multiple hours of steady state cardio a day on very, very low carbohydrates and very low calories. Once the show is over, they rebound very rapidly and commonly gain 10, 20, 30 pounds of weight back very quickly within 4 to 8 weeks. And then the next time they begin the competition prep phase, they have an even harder time losing the weight. It seems typically what's prescribed by a lot of coaches or gurus out there in that case is more cardio and even less food, which just causes the cycle to repeat itself until the athlete gets to the point where their body is basically broken and there's nothing they can do seemingly nothing they can do to repair the damage that's been done. And maybe you've experienced this yourself. For me personally, I began competing in 2002, and I competed in 10 figure shows between 2002 and 2008. My very last competition was the Team Universe in September of 2008. Initially, I feel my training and nutrition was very reasonable, and I responded very well to the training. And as time went on, the diets and exercise that were prescribed to me became more and more extreme for some reason. And what I mean by that is it got to the point where in 2007, I competed in 3 shows. I was doing 2.5 hours of cardio a day, plus weights, and I was doing that 5 days a week with 2 hours each day of cardio on the weekends on approximately 900 to 1100 calories and 0 complex carbs and very low fat. it seemed after a while, it just stopped working. No matter what I did, I just could not lose body fat. And instead of getting leaner and revealing more muscle mass, I looked worse. I looked puffy, watery, as some of the girls say on stage, and just looked terrible. My body just basically got to the point where it said, you know, basically, I'm done. We don't want to do this anymore. On top of that, there's the mental and emotional side that goes with that. I was not a very pleasant person to be around, I can imagine. I'd like to apologize to my friends and family for that at this time. I was tired all the time. I skipped family and social functions. It took a very large toll on my relationships because I was just away from home, away from my family, away from my friends for so long. It's hard. I kind of became obsessed because and now in hindsight, I know that when you're not eating enough calories, all you can think about is your next meal. You really become obsessed with food. And then when you do have a treat or a cheat meal, a number of things happen psychologically where you almost feel out of control. When all of a sudden you have this huge influx of calories, I felt like I couldn't stop eating. And then there's the guilt and the depression that comes after that phase, after you've fallen off the diet wagon and feel like you have to go do more cardio to correct what just happened. And I know, like I said, I've had messages from a lot of girls who experience the same thing. Basically I dieted for the entire year of 2007, which was a mistake to begin with. After that contest season was over, I rapidly gained back about 15 pounds in a period of 6 weeks after the show, which really makes you feel horrible. As an athlete, you just competed. You're supposed to be this lean, mean machine. You just stepped off the stage, and then in a matter of weeks, you really don't even look like you exercise anymore. And that is emotionally very, very hard. And I really took it out on myself. Like there was something wrong with me, that I had no self-control, that I felt like my body betrayed me. And I think the habit a lot of girls fall into is, well, I'll just train for another show, and that way I can be lean again, when really that's the worst thing you can do. And we'll talk about that in the next video. But I decided to go for it again, so I began dieting again in January of 2008, and again, less food, more cardio, and my body basically shut down. I lost my menstrual cycle for 7 months and yet could not lose body fat. No energy, again, just on a mission to turn pro or to do well at these shows. I basically had forsaken everything else in the name of competition. And when that show was over, the rebound was even worse. At the end of 2008, I gained about 20 pounds in a period of 6 weeks. And that was the point where I knew that I needed help. At that time, I had read an article by Kevin Miles about metabolic damage, and when I read the story of this hypothetical competitor, Susie, in this article, it immediately hit me, wow, that's me. That's exactly what I'm going through. And I'll put a link to that article at the bottom of this video so that you all can check it out. So I contacted Kevin, and we began the process of putting myself back together. But it was really hard. The behaviors that come with metabolic damage are just very, very, very taxing. The things you tell yourself, the uncontrollable eating, it really was as if I had been someone that had been starved. And sometimes I would sit down to eat, and I would eat really, really fast, like I was afraid somebody was going to take my food away from me. I would look down at my plate, and my food would be gone. And I knew that was not healthy behavior. Now, granted, when I say I gained back 20 pounds in 6 weeks, you have to understand, even with an increase in calories, if you were to add those calories up, they do not equal 20 pounds of body fat. But when your metabolism becomes so conditioned to the exercise you're doing and you're chronically underfed, when you increase calories, your body becomes like a fat sponge, is what I like to call it. And you see the same thing with yo-yo dieters that will follow a very restrictive protocol for a short amount of time and then go back to the way they were eating previously, and they gain back all of the weight and then some. And this is the same thing that a lot of these competitors are experiencing. I just want everyone out there to know that if you are going through this, there is hope, and there is more than one way to train for a show. It's not necessary to train this way, and I just don't want to see anybody else go down this road. So next time I will talk a little bit more about my recovery and the steps that my coach and I, Kevin Miles, took to get me back on the right track, how long it took, and hopefully give some advice to those out there that are going through the same thing. So until then, take care, train hard, and we'll talk to you soon.